Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We love unpacking complex ideas, and today we're diving into something that might feel a bit abstract at first. But trust me, it has really profound, immediate impacts on your daily life. We're talking about the idea that our thoughts, they aren't just these fleeting little wisps in our minds. No, the idea is they can actually become things, energetic entities almost, with a real presence. Our guide for this exploration is a really insightful piece called When Thoughts Become Entities, the Hidden Harm of Emotional Projections and Lineage Blindspots. Think of this deep dive as your shortcut, your way to really grasp these profound concepts, and crucially, how they impact your energy, your clarity, your empowerment. We want you to walk away with practical insights you can use right now.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it? Because these ideas, they really bridge so many different areas. You've got ancient mystical traditions talking about this, modern psychology touching on similar themes, and of course, contemporary energy healing. It's all about understanding those unseen influences around us, sure, but maybe even more importantly, the subtle forces within us. So our mission today really is to demystify these powerful concepts. We want to give you, our listeners, some really actionable ways to navigate your own energetic world with more awareness, more intention. So yeah, get ready for a journey. We'll start by defining what these thought forms actually are. Then we'll look at how emotional projections work energetically, especially in relationships. We'll touch on inherited patterns, these lineage things that can sometimes blind us. And, most importantly, we'll get into practical strategies, energetic hygiene, self-sovereignty, basically how to manage your own energetic reality. It's a deep one.
The invisible world of thought form entities.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning with this. Well, it's a pretty provocative idea, isn't it? That thoughts become things. Where does that even come from? It sounds ancient.
It has ancient roots, definitely. But a lot of the modern way we talk about it comes from early theosophists, people like Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater. And what makes their work so interesting is they weren't just theorizing. They claimed, through clairvoyant observation, to actually see thoughts. They described them as colored, shaped energies right there in the human aura. They wrote about it back in 1901 in their book Thought Forms. Gave lots of detail.
Wait, they claimed to see them, like visually perceive these thought energies? That's pretty out there. What did they say they looked like?
Exactly. They saw distinct energetic structures. They went into specifics, saying the quality of the thought determines its color. So a loving thought might appear as clear, maybe luminous blue or pink hues, whereas anger, that might look like jagged flashes of red or maybe murky, dark clouds.
Wow. Colors for emotions and thoughts. And shapes, too.
Shapes, too, yes. The nature of the thought, they said, determines the form. So a benevolent intention might create a harmonious, maybe a rounded shape, but a destructive thought could look sharp, chaotic, jagged, and then the definiteness of the thought, how focused and clear it is that affects the outline. A really clear, focused thought has a sharp outline. A fuzzy thought looks, well, fuzzy.
Like a mental blueprint becoming energetic reality.
You could put it that way. The core takeaway they presented is this. Your repeated thoughts aren't just passing mental events. They're actively building energetic forces, forces that shape your reality, your aura. So, the advice is choose your thoughts carefully because you're literally building your energetic world with them.
That's a really powerful concept. And it's interesting because it's not just mystics talking about this. Doesn't modern psychology touch on something similar? I'm thinking of Carl Jung here.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating parallel. Jung's analytical psychology, especially his idea of autonomous complexes, resonates strongly. Jung noticed that these emotionally charged patterns of thought, he called them complexes, like an inferiority complex or maybe a power complex. They could act in surprising ways. He described them as behaving almost like independent agents within our psyche, almost like they had, and this is his phrase, a little personality of itself.
A little personality. So a really strong thought or feeling can literally take on a life of its own inside us. How would that show up?
Pretty much, yes. It means a really potent thought or a deeply ingrained emotion can exert influence beyond what we consciously intend. It starts to shape our behavior, our perceptions, often unconsciously. Jung even noted that in extreme cases, these powerful complexes could generate hallucinatory voices or visions, like external things, but originating internally. So for Jung, these weren't just abstract ideas, they were functional realities in our mental landscape, acting almost like separate entities within us. The sharpest insight from Jung, maybe, is that these intensely charged thought patterns aren't just internal feelings. They can exert an almost independent will, influencing us subtly or sometimes not so subtly. like little beings inside our own minds.
That bridge between the mystical and the psychological is just fascinating. And then you have modern energy healers building on that too. Barbara Brennan, for example. Her work seems to connect right into this idea of energetic thought forms.
Indeed. Barbara Brennan, she was a NASA physicist before becoming a renowned energy healer. In her book, Hands of Light, she detailed her own clairvoyant perceptions. She describes seeing these thought forms in the mental layer of the aura, usually floating around the head and shoulders area. She calls them blobs of varying brightness, shape, and color that represent our ideas.
Blobs representing ideas, and what makes them brighter or clearer in her view?
Brennan observed it was focus and repetition. The more focused and repeated a thought is, the more defined and potent its form becomes in the aura. The clarity and strength directly mirror the sharpness of the idea and the intensity of the emotion driving it. And like Besson and Leadbeater, she saw colors too, indicating the emotional tone. Love-based thoughts have certain hues. Fear-based thoughts have others.
So what does that mean for us, for you listening?
It means the energy you generate with your constant thoughts and feelings literally coalesces. It clumps together into these energetic thought entities right there in your personal space. And these thought forms, they can then subtly but quite profoundly influence your mood, maybe even your physical health, and definitely your relationships. They tend to reinforce the very mindset that created them. It's like an energetic feedback loop, almost self-fulfilling.
So if I'm constantly, say, worrying about money, that worry itself could become a kind of energetic cloud that actually influences my financial reality or how I feel about it.
That's the idea. Precisely. A persistent worry or a strong desire, if you keep charging it with emotion, it builds energetic density. It becomes almost tangible in your psyche or aura. As one author puts it, thought forms gain energy through the feelings we attach to them, and also by attracting similar thought vibrations from other people. Now, this thought form entity could be positive, like a powerful vision for your future pulling you forward. Or it could be detrimental, like that cloud of self-judgment that just seems to hang around you. The key takeaway here is understanding the ingredients, your focused attention, your emotional intensity, and repetition. These aren't just mental exercises. They are the levers you use, consciously or unconsciously, to actively shape your energetic reality and attract corresponding influences.
That's huge. So maybe just pause for a second, you listening right now. How might you already be experiencing this? The subtle influence of thought forms in your life, even if you haven't put that name to it. Maybe it's that nagging voice of self-doubt that always seems to pop up when you want to try something new. Almost feels like a separate voice, doesn't it sometimes? Or maybe it's that sudden, unexpected wave of optimism that just carries you through a tough day. Where did that come from?
With this framework, you can start to perceive these energetic presences more clearly.
The alchemy of projection, when expectations become energetic code.
Okay, so we've got a sense of thought forms as these energetic entities. Now let's look at how they show up in our relationships. This happens through something powerful and often unconscious: projection. Now, psychologically, we usually think of projection as, putting our own unacknowledged feelings onto someone else, like blaming someone for being angry when really we're the angry one. But how does this work energetically? Is it different? Oh, it's much deeper energetically. It's not just a defense mechanism. It's more like an alchemical process where a silent expectation literally turns into an influencing force. Think about it. When you strongly expect something from someone else, or you hold a really powerful longing or maybe a fear about them, that intense focus, that mental emotional energy, it doesn't just stay inside your head. It actually becomes like an energetic command, or maybe a subtle coded instruction that you broadcast towards them. The thought form you're holding, the idea of what you want or fear, is sent out silently. And the really wild part is it can start to live in their energy field if they're receptive.
Can you give an example? How might that actually play out between two people?
Sure. Let's take a common relationship dynamic. Imagine one partner has this deep underlying fear. They're going to leave me. Maybe they never say it out loud, but it's a focused thought, right? And it's charged with a lot of emotion, anxiety, insecurity, maybe that feeling of impending loss. Energetically, it's almost like that person is constantly, subtly programming the relationship with that expectation of abandonment. It's a silent code being broadcast. You are going to leave.
Wow.
And this thought form, fueled by fear day in and day out, it genuinely radiates into the other partner's energy field. Now, if that other partner happens to have maybe some latent feelings about needing space or maybe their own commitment anxieties, they might start to feel this subtle or maybe not so subtle urge to pull away. And they might not even consciously know why. The unspoken expectation has effectively written itself into the dynamic. As the spiritual teacher Teal Swan says, people will set you up to feel the way they feel.
That's quite so.
The really sharp insight here. What you violently expect, fear, or desire from others can subtly, yet powerfully, program their behavior towards you. Your internal narrative isn't just internal. It's an energetic broadcast shaping your interactions.
Okay, but for someone new to this, that sounds almost magical, or maybe manipulative. How do these unspoken commands actually take hold? What's the mechanism behind it?
It's based on a principle that's actually quite logical in energy terms. Resonance. It's like a lock and key. An energetic projection, or any subtle energy really, will only stick if there's a resonant receptor for it in the person receiving it. James Garside put it well. A projection will only stick if there is a seed of believability in it that you accept. So the projection needs to find a match within the receiver. Maybe it's a dormant fear they already have, or an unexamined belief, or some specific vulnerability. That's the receptor.
The seed of believability.
Exactly. If someone tries to project, say, an insecurity onto you that you genuinely don't have any part of, it usually just bounces off. It can't find anything to latch onto. But if you do carry a piece of that insecurity, even buried deep down, the projection finds its hook, plugs right in, and as the source says, you literally take on that energy from them. This is why it often operates unconsciously, right? It slides into the cracks, the parts of ourselves we haven't healed or looked at.
Like tuning a radio.
Precisely. It's like a radio signal tuning into a receiver set to the exact same frequency. No match, no connection. So the key insight is projections only stick where there's already an internal resonance. They exploit your unhealed spots, your vulnerabilities, your unexamined beliefs. They act like energetic triggers for what's already inside you.
So it finds that pre-existing hook, and often the person doing the projecting, they don't even know they're doing it, right? Psychology says it's about getting rid of feelings they can't handle themselves.
It's exactly right. Think about someone who carries a lot of hidden shame. They might constantly criticize others, maybe subtly, maybe overtly. Energetically, that criticism, spoken or just thought intensely, acts like a little psychic dart, planting seeds of shame in the person they're targeting. Now, if the person receiving it already has some dormant, unaddressed shame, those seeds find fertile ground. They sprout. And suddenly, the recipient feels this wave of shame that seems to come from nowhere. They don't realize it was triggered by an external projection finding resonance within them. The projector's internal state has subtly coded the recipient's emotional reality, and it can all happen completely under the radar.
I imagine empaths must be particularly vulnerable to this. It sounds like catching an emotional cold.
They absolutely can be. Empathic individuals often describe catching others' emotions almost like a virus. One article mentions how projectors will send out hooks to see if you will accept the emotions. If you get shaken, your energy will come to match their trauma. The hooks are those projected thoughts or feelings. And the crucial part is agreement. Whether it's conscious agreement or, more often, unconscious resonance, that's what sets the hook. It's a deeply alchemical thing. A private expectation in one person's mind becomes a coded instruction that directly affects another person's feeling state. Psychology even has a term for an extreme version: projective identification. That's where someone subtly induces their own unacknowledged feelings in another person, causing that second person to unconsciously adopt them and act them out. Energetically, you could visualize it as if a piece of the projector's psyche gets inserted into the receiver's aura, like a little bit of software running on someone else's computer without their permission. This raises really profound questions about energetic ethics, about consent on levels we don't usually consider.
Yeah, it really does.
The core insight shifts our whole sense of responsibility, doesn't it? Your silent thoughts, your unspoken expectations about others, they aren't just private. They are energetic broadcasts that can subtly, powerfully program the people around you.
Which means, wow, we're not just accountable for what we say and do, we're accountable for what we think and feel about others, at least in terms of its potential impact. Our inner narratives, our silent hopes or fears for someone, they might be programming them, for better or for worse. That's a level of energetic influence most of us probably haven't really considered before.
Entity attachment.
Yeah.
Through emotional familiarity and lineage blindspots.
Okay, so we've got thoughts as entities, projections latching on through resonance. But why do some of these outside energies, these thought forms, just slip past our defenses completely undetected? The sources offer a really profound reason. We tend not to question what feels familiar.
That's the key right there. It creates this massive loophole in our energetic awareness. If an energy, a feeling, maybe a thought pattern enters your field and it resonates deeply with something you felt your whole life, your immediate unconscious reaction is likely to assume it's just yours. Why wouldn't you? Your guard is down. The incoming signal feels like a native signal, like part of your own system's normal operating frequency. It doesn't set off any alarms because it feels like home. Think of it like an energetic lock and key again. Your psyche has certain shapes, right? Patterns formed by your usual emotions, your history, maybe even your family patterns. An external thought form or energy that has a similar shape or frequency can just slot right in, seamlessly. Let's take an example. Imagine a young woman, okay? Maybe she grew up in a family where there was always this subtle undercurrent of guilt. Perhaps her parents, without meaning to, made her feel responsible for their moods. So that feeling of guilt becomes part of her emotional baseline. It feels normal to her.
It's just how things feel.
Right. So later in life, maybe she has a friend or a partner who subtly projects guilt. Maybe through passive-aggressive remarks like, oh, well, if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't feel so bad.
Ugh.
Because guilt is such a familiar feeling for her that projection doesn't trigger an internal alarm. It doesn't feel foreign. It just slips right through her boundaries, effortlessly. She might suddenly feel this heavy wave of guilt without even being directly accused and not understand where it came from. The projection bypassed her conscious awareness entirely because it rode in on a frequency she recognized as her own.
Wow.
Essentially, if an emotion coming at you is one you already carry deeply, you often welcome it in like it belongs there, failing to see it's actually an energetic intruder hitching a ride on your familiarity. The core insight. Familiarity is the loophole. Energies matching your ingrained emotional patterns, especially those from your family, get absorbed easily because they feel normal, bypassing your natural energetic defenses.
That makes total sense. Like we have these built-in emotional grooves. So how do family patterns, specifically these lineage vibes, play into this? Because it really does feel like certain emotions run in families, almost like a collective inheritance.
They absolutely do, and this resonance principle is incredibly strong in families. Family systems carry distinct energetic patterns. You could call it a family vibe or an intergenerational emotional tone. These aren't just abstract. They could be patterns of grief that never got processed, or maybe persistent anger, deep shame, even things like collective poverty consciousness. These patterns get passed down not just through behavior or stories, but maybe even, as epigenetics suggests, through biological markers. We unconsciously inherit our family's emotional baseline, and these inherited frequencies act like hidden channels within our energy field.
Like open wire.
Exactly. An energy or a thought form that perfectly matches one of these lineage patterns can travel along those channels without resistance. Spiritual traditions have talked about this for ages. Tibetan Buddhism, for instance, has the concept of tulpas. Tulpas are traditionally thought of as beings or thought forms created intentionally through intense mental focus by mystics. But the concept shows how a thought form can gain an independent existence. What's relevant here is that tulpas can also be created unconsciously, especially through collective belief or emotion.
So a family could create one without realizing it.
That's the idea. A really strongly held belief in a family, or a pervasive emotion like, we always fail at relationships, or anger is the only way to get a respect in this family, that can act like a group-created tulpa. This thought form entity can sort of hover in the family's collective energy field, and each family member might unconsciously carry a piece of it. Now, if you're carrying that family thought form, and someone else projects a similar energy at you, it's like two puzzle pieces clicking together perfectly.
Yeah.
The family tulpa almost welcomes its energetic twin. You don't recognize the incoming energy as foreign because it speaks your native energetic dialect. It resonates with your inherited emotional language.
That's powerful.
The key insight is that family systems hold these potent, inherited energetic patterns. They act like magnets for corresponding thought forms and projections, making external influences feel like your own emotions or just the way things are.
The tuning fork idea, again. Our emotional bodies vibrate and they resonate with matching frequencies. We entrain to them, often without noticing. Can you give a more personal example of how that might look?
Sure. Let's imagine a young man. Maybe he's inherited a quick temper. It runs in the family. His dad had it, his granddad too. So that specific frequency of anger lives deeply in his energy field, even if he consciously dislikes it. Now, imagine someone at work is secretly harboring hostile thoughts toward him, sending out this potent thought form of anger. If this young man had no anger in his system, maybe he'd notice this weird, irritable energy coming at him and just shrug it off. But because he does carry that inherited pattern, that incoming angry thought form finds a perfect welcoming host environment. It slips right into his aura, joins the chorus of his own internal anger, and suddenly, boom, he finds himself inexplicably furious, for no reason, or way more reactive than usual. The projection hooked into his emotional familiarity, amplifying what was already there. And you see this echoed in esoteric teachings, too. Dion Fortune, the occultist, noted that sometimes what looks like an external psychic attack is actually what she called dissociated complex, extruded from the aura as a thought form. Basically, your own unhealed stuff coming back at you energetically. But whether it's external or self-generated, the mechanism is resonance, familiarity. Shamanic traditions often say like attracts like. An entity, whether a spirit or an energy fragment, hangs around where it gets fed.
And the food is emotion.
Strong emotion, yes. The source material states it clearly. Strong passions feed entities and are required to keep these beings strong within our psyche. So if you carry a strong passion, positive or negative, any thought form nearby with a similar energy signature gets drawn to you for sustenance. This might explain why, say, someone in addiction recovery might feel suddenly overwhelmed by cravings when they're around people actively using. The old pattern within them gets reactivated, reinforced by the thought entities present in that environment, which are feeding on that shared energy. There's also a fascinating perspective from Tibetan lore, echoed by some modern clairvoyants, about ancestor spirits. They suggest some energetic entities can actually travel down family lines. If an ancestor died with major unresolved trauma, or a really intense thought form they hadn't released, that entity might just stick around the family, adapting to descendants who carry the same core wound or emotional pattern. One healer, Dr. Jen Wyman Clemens, notes some entities linked to unfinished business might even reincarnate within the same lineage where karmic patterns persist until they are consciously released.
Wow, so a family could be haunted not just by genetics, but by an actual energetic presence passing down.
That's the concept. These lineage thought forms are masters of disguise because everyone in the family just thinks their influence is normal. It could be the lingering energy of Grandpa's unspoken grief, or it might feel more personified, like Great Aunt Mary's critical voice, still echoing down the generations. Either way, the family's collective blind spot to its own pattern provides perfect camouflage for the attached energy. It just blends in with the family's perceived normal. The core insight here is crucial. Unresolved family patterns create energetic blind spots. These act as open doors for entities that feed on those familiar ingrained emotions, making inherited dysfunction feel totally normal and incredibly hard to spot.
Which brings us to something really vital. Emotional self-knowledge. Knowing yourself, knowing your patterns. That sounds like the ultimate defense here, the best energetic firewall.
It absolutely is. Think about it. If you can consciously say, okay, yeah, I have this tendency to feel guilty when I haven't actually done anything wrong, you are way, way more likely to catch it when someone tries to lay an external guilt trip on you. Or if you understand, my family carries a lot of unexpressed grief, you can be mindful. You might realize that some of the heaviness you feel today isn't just about today's events. You can ask, is something external tweaking that old string, playing on that vulnerability? These entities, these thought forms that thrive on familiarity, they rely on us not questioning these ingrained feelings. By shining the light of awareness on your own resonance points, you build that firewall. You make it much harder for anything foreign or unhelpful to slip in undetected and without your permission. And that really is the good news in all this. Bringing these patterns into your conscious awareness, it's like pulling the costume off the ghost. Suddenly, it loses a lot of its power. Healing inherited trauma through therapy, energy work, ritual, whatever works for you, it effectively closes the door that these opportunistic energies might use.
It's about consciously claiming your right to feel differently from your ancestors, to break the mold. That's like installing a powerful energetic firewall that says loud and clear, this family pain stops right here, with me. It's a profound act of reclaiming your energetic space from any lingering lineage phantoms. It's choosing to create a new, healthier energetic legacy. It's a declaration of freedom, really. Your freedom to shape your own energetic destiny.
Practical steps for energetic hygiene and self-sovereignty.
Okay, so we've journeyed through this sometimes unsettling landscape, thought forms, projections, lineage stuff. The big question is, what can we actually do about it? And this is where empowerment comes in. Because the great news is we are not helpless here, not at all. We have the power to cultivate energetic hygiene, to set clear boundaries, to protect ourselves, and just as importantly, we can take responsibility for not sending out harmful projections ourselves. Our sources give us some really practical steps. Steps for us as receivers, wanting to keep our field clear, and for us as senders, wanting to clean up our energetic output. It's a mix of ancient wisdom and modern insight.
Exactly. Think of it like physical hygiene. We wash our bodies, brush our teeth, clean our homes, right? We need to do the same for our subtle energy body. Negative thought forms, emotional residue from others, leftover projection energy, it can all cling to us like psychic dust bunnies accumulating over time. So having regular energy clearing routines, daily or weekly, is pretty essential to keep our energy field clear and, well, less inviting to unwanted guests. These aren't just symbolic acts. Done with intention, they are genuinely effective. Let's go through some proven practices you can try. Pick what resonates with you. First up, intentional releasing. Get in the habit of checking in with your mood. Especially if you feel a sudden shift that doesn't make sense, ask yourself, is this feeling actually mine? If you're not sure, do a quick release, like when you're washing your hands, or even better, taking a shower. Visualize any energy, any emotion, any thought that isn't yours just flowing off you, down the drain, gone. You can affirm it mentally, or even whisper, I release all emotions and thoughts that aren't mine. Pay attention. Did that weird mood lift? Did that strange feeling lessen? If yes, bingo. That was a strong clue. It wasn't yours to begin with. Doing this consistently builds your discernment muscle. You get better at sensing when something feels off or foreign, and you know you have a quick way to clear it.
Like an energetic shower. Simple, but effective. What else for clearing?
Next, smudging and aura cleansing. Lots of cultures use smoke from sacred herbs for clearing. You can burn sage, palo santo, cedar. Gently wave the smoke around your body through your home with the clear intention. Clear away stagnant or negative energy. Sound works wonders too. Ringing a bell, a chime, a tuning fork around your aura helps break up dense energy. Even just snapping your fingers or clapping your hands around your body can dislodge clingy thought forms. And after intense interactions or being in crowds, consider a salt bath. A cup or two of sea salt in warm water, soak for 20 minutes. Salt is amazing at absorbing and neutralizing negativity. The key with all these is intent. They help dust off your energy body, and consistency is key. Think of it like personal hygiene. Make it a regular practice.
Okay, so cleansing is important. But how do we become more resilient, less likely to pick things up in the first place?
That brings us to grounding and centering. This is absolutely fundamental for energetic stability. Grounding means connecting your body, your consciousness, firmly to the present moment and to the earth. If you're well grounded, you're much harder to knock off balance by other people's energy. Simple ways to ground. Walk barefoot on glass or soil. Lie down on the earth. Visualize roots growing deep down from your feet. Eating hearty foods, root vegetables, good protein helps anchor you. Physical activity does too. When you're grounded, you naturally create what some call the hula hoop principle. Imagine a hula hoop around you. Inside is your business, your energy, your feelings. Outside is theirs. Grounding maintains that healthy separation. And if you do pick up something foreign, you can consciously send it down your grounding roots into the earth. Let the earth recycle it. It's like energetic composting. Being grounded also makes you more present. And presence is the enemy of unconscious attachment. Entities often exploit distraction or dissociation. Stay fully in your body, in the now, leaves fewer shadows for things to hide in. Then there's energetic filtering or shielding. This is a bit more advanced, but really powerful. Think of it like creating a smart filter around your aura. It lets in only what serves your highest good and blocks or deflects everything else. How? Through visualization and intention. Maybe in your morning meditation, imagine a glowing bubble around you. Could be iridescent, could be shimmering light. Then you program it. Only energies that serve my highest good may enter. All others are reflected or dissolved. This means even if a familiar vibe comes along, like Aunt Mildred's usual negativity, if it's not actually good for you, it doesn't get through. The key is conscious intent. You're claiming your power to manage your field, lovingly but firmly. This isn't about building rigid walls out of fear. It's a flexible, intelligent filter set with confidence. You can reinforce it by asking for help from your higher self, guides, angels, whatever resonates. A simple mantra helps too. Only love comes in, all else stays out. Okay. With practice, this becomes automatic. You'll still feel empathy, but you'll notice negative stuff stays more on the periphery, not penetrating your core. It's a major upgrade for your energetic protection, especially against those tricky, resonant projections. And finally, don't forget, space clearing and feng shui. Your energy is tied to your environment. So clearing your home or office is just as vital as clearing yourself. Energy lingers in rooms, right? You walk into a room after an argument, you can feel it. Use the same tools. Smoke, sound, salt, light. Open the windows. Fresh air and sunlight work wonders. And seriously, declutter. Physical mess can hold on to dense energy. Clean the corners, behind furniture, sprinkle salt in corners overnight, then vacuum it up. After clearing, bless the space. Ring a bell, affirm this room is filled with peace and joy. Keeping your home high vibration with calming music, nice scents, harmony makes it a place where unwelcome energies just don't feel comfortable sticking around. Like keeping a garden healthy so weeds don't take over.
So by combining these different practices, you really build a solid routine of energetic self-care. Like washing your hands stops germs. These habits stop invasive energies taking root. They help you discharge stuff you might have picked up before it causes problems. And people who do this regularly, They consistently say they feel lighter, clearer, happier afterwards. It's a real feedback that energetic burdens were lifted.
Absolutely. Now, clearing and protecting is one side of the coin. The other equally vital side is the inner work. This is about reducing the targets within you that projections or entities latch onto. And it's also about reducing the ammunition you might be sending out. It works both ways. As a receiver, healing your own wounds means fewer resonance points for things to stick to, fewer vulnerabilities to exploit. As a sender, taking responsibility for your own feelings means you're less likely to create harmful thought forms that affect others. Let's look at some guidelines for this inner work. First, know thyself and thy lineage. Self-awareness is your ultimate shield. Really dedicate time to understanding your triggers, your core beliefs, and your family's energetic legacy. Therapy, journaling, meditation, support groups, these are all tools to shine a light on your personal and inherited blind spots. When you identify a pattern like, oh, I tend to take on responsibility that isn't mine, just like my dad did, name it, make it conscious. You defang it by bringing it into the light. Then you're less likely to get hooked when someone pushes that button because you see the pattern and can choose your response. Practically, if you know you have, say, an abandonment wound, you can mentally prepare and reinforce your boundaries in situations that might trigger it. Use affirmations. I am whole and safe. The more you fill your own cup, self-love, security, healing trauma, the fewer empty spaces or raw spots there are for projections to stick to. Now, on the other side, emotional ownership for senders. If you feel a really intense emotion or judgment about someone, pause, own it. Before reacting or letting it fester, acknowledge internally, wow, I'm feeling a lot of anger, anxiety, neediness right now about this. Breathe with it, journal about it, talk to a neutral friend before interacting with the person involved. By processing it as yours, you drastically cut the chance of beaming out a volatile thought form. If you do need to communicate, use I statements. I feel hurt when X happens, not you hurt me. It's energetically cleaner. And try not to obsessively ruminate or fantasize about someone. That constant mental energy can become psychic interference. If you catch yourself doing it, consciously clear your energy. Maybe write it down and burn it. Release it symbolically instead of sending it. Also really key is clear communication and consent. Make an effort to replace assumptions and silent expectations with open, honest talk. Unspoken expectations breed projections. Speak your needs, listen to theirs, bring things to the surface for conscious negotiation. Energetically, it means less murky stuff floating around. If you sense something's off, maybe a friend seems distant, gently ask. Proactive communication prevents a whole hidden ecosystem of thought forms from taking root. And for the receiver again, boundary setting and saying no. Remember, you have the absolute right to refuse energy you don't want. It's not rude. Visualize closing an energetic door. Gently reflect their energy back with compassion. Use a mantra like return to sender. Not vengefully, just this isn't mine to carry. You can say no energetically and you can say it verbally too. I can't hold this space for you right now, or I don't accept that criticism. Knowing you can say no confidently is crucial for sovereignty. And finally, maybe the best defense is a good offense. Cultivate positive vibrations and supportive fields. Actively fill your life, your aura, with positive energy. Surround yourself with supportive people. When you're immersed in love, joy, truth, lower frequency stuff struggles to get in. This could be regular meditation or prayer connecting you to peace. It could be high vibe music, time in nature, friends who uplift you. Raise your overall frequency, become less of a match for negativity. And if you suspect a deep lineage issue, consider professional help, energy healing, ancestral healing. Skilled practitioners can help release old burdens that aren't yours. Healing backward helps you heal forward.
So by weaving all these together, the clearing, the inner work, the boundaries, the positive focus, you create this really robust, resilient, energetic ecosystem for yourself. You become a guardian of your own field and a responsible steward of the energy you send out. It's about energetic integrity, right? Not dumping on others, not absorbing their dumps. Your energy stays clean. Your interactions become conscious choices, not unconscious tangles. Outro. So where does this whole deep dive leave us? It brings us to this really profound kind of liberating insight, doesn't it? That each of us, you listening right now, you are the sovereign ruler of your own inner world. And with this sovereignty comes, well, it comes with responsibility. Our thoughts, our feelings, they aren't just private little events. They're potent forces. They shape our reality, and they can subtly shape the reality of others too. When you really get that thoughts are things, that feelings are energies with real influence, a kind of natural ethic starts to emerge. Just like you wouldn't carelessly throw physical stuff at people, right? You learn not to carelessly throw your rage or your envy or your despair at them energetically either. And like locking your front door, you realize you have the right and maybe the duty to set energetic boundaries to keep your mind, heart, space safe.
Exactly. We can think of it as two key concepts: energetic responsibility and energetic sovereignty. Energetic responsibility is about acknowledging the power of our focus, our emotions, being mindful, catching ourselves if we're feeding vengeful thoughts or toxic ruminations that could become energetic pests in our own lives. It means owning our feelings. If I feel something intense, I tend to reflect, heal, channel it creatively rather than letting it solidify and latch onto someone else. It means sending energy intentionally, choosing kindness, offering prayers, positive visualization, instead of dwelling on negativity about others. We won't be perfect, obviously. We're human, we'll slip up. But the commitment is when we err, we clean it up. We clear the energy, maybe have an honest conversation instead of letting resentment become a silent psychic weapon. And energetic sovereignty, that's the firm stance. My energy is my own. I govern what comes in and what goes out. It's healthy personal space on all levels. It means we stop seeing ourselves as just victims of vibes or fate. We become the conscious gatekeepers, even if stuff got in when we were younger, less aware. As adults, we have the tools and the power to evict it. We can
Yeah.
literally declare this family pattern of anxiety, it stops with me. That declaration has immense power, and sovereignty is what allows true empathy and love without unhealthy enmeshment. We can care deeply without getting tangled in others' projections or giving away our energy unconsciously. It's conscious choice versus unconscious influence.
And weaving through all of this, the antidote, the key at every single step, is awareness. Awareness takes a thought form that felt like an entity and turns it back into just a thought you can choose to change. Awareness takes someone else's subtle projection and makes it visible. Something you can choose how to respond to, maybe through conversation, maybe through self-reflection. Awareness shines light on those ancestral shadows, those hidden patterns, and allows them to dissolve into healing light. With awareness, you reclaim your power from the patterns that used to run you unconsciously. You become the master of your own inner house.
And that brings us to the ethics of it all. Because our inner world affects the outer, there is a moral dimension to how we handle our emotions. It's not about suppressing bad thoughts that often just feeds them more energy. It's about consciously channeling or transforming them. Anger can be noticed, felt, then maybe redirected into assertive action, not left to become a destructive entity. Love can be nurtured, amplified, shared, becoming a positive presence. When we treat our thoughts and feelings with this respect, we naturally extend that to the unseen energetic connections between us, respecting psychic space, respecting consent on that deeper level.
Look, life is always going to be a mix of energies. We'll still bunk into projections and counter weird psychic stuff. Sometimes it's just part of being human. But now, armed with this understanding, with these tools, we don't need to fear it. We don't need to be controlled by it. We can meet it with a clear mind, a strong boundary, and a compassionate heart. Energetic responsibility and sovereignty don't isolate us. Paradoxically, they allow for truer connection, cleaner connection, consciously chosen, genuinely healing, not entangling. When thoughts become entities, we know how to recognize them, release them. When projections fly, we can sidestep or deflect. When lineage ghosts rattle their chains, we can lay them to rest, break the chains for good. We become conscious gardeners of our inner landscape, pulling the weeds of destructive projections, watering the flowers of loving intentions. Imagine the collective energy field we could create if we all committed to this. It's a vision where empathy is strong, but boundaries are respected, where we influence each other through inspiration, not imposition. Conscious co-creation. A world where sovereignty is honored, where we hold our own energy and hold space for each other's highest good. Until next time, keep diving deep into what truly matters for your energetic well-being.